But now we're joined by John Light, my friend from San Francisco. We used to hang out at the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup. We got Ryan behind the camera here, and me and John. It's a old home reunion here. People that used to go to the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup but now are distributed all over the world. So, John, what have you been working on lately? What's going on? What brings you to Prague? Far out from here.
Yeah, great question. So, of course, the Institute of Crypto Anarchy and Hackers Congress here.
That's right.
Great reason to come out here. Specifically, my colleague Luis Quende is going to be speaking later today about DAOs and how DAOs can bring about a new order.
Nice.
That's the theme of the conference this year is the new order.
Not just a good band, also the theme.
And yeah, so the kind of main two projects that I work on in the cryptocurrency space would be Aragon with Luis and team, and Bitseed, which is a project where we build and ship a full node, like plug and play full nodes to people all over the world.
Well, I know more about Bitseed, so I think I'll start there. You guys have, like you say, a plug and play Bitcoin full node. So for people that are looking to just plug something into their router, maybe you want to support the Bitcoin network, or maybe you're a merchant or a person that does a lot of transactions, or a trader, you want to send your transactions through your own node so you know that they're completed first, or you get some kind of advantage that way. What are the advantages to running a Bitseed full node?
Yeah, today most people that I talk to who use Bitseed just use it to support the network. More advanced users will use it to pair with a wallet, a mobile wallet that supports, for example, connecting to a trusted node, or if they are familiar with the Linux command line, they might install like Electrum Personal Server and then connect it to their Electrum wallet.
Okay, so you could do it on the mobile wallet, it would go through the node. You could do it on another wallet, it would go through the node.
Yes, and in the case of Electrum Personal Server, Bitseed would actually be used as like a UTXO provider, so that instead of querying a third-party database like blockchain.info or OXT or some other third-party,
which could leave behind a record or maybe expose your privacy, something like that.
Yeah, basically every time your Bitcoin wallet queries a third-party server for its balances, you're essentially letting this service know, hey, I'm interested in all of these addresses, which would tell the server that all of these addresses are perhaps part of the same wallet. And if you're not using Tor or at least a VPN or something, then your IP address is also now associated with those addresses. So using your own full node as the UTXO provider instead of a third-party server is the most secure and the most private way to use Bitcoin today.
Great. And let's talk about the details of the full nodes. Do they have SegWit? Do they have Bech32 addresses? And then we'll get into Lightning.
Yeah, so they run the latest version of Bitcoin Core.
Great.
So all of the features that Bitcoin Core supports today are supported on the full node.
So cool. Version 17 already?
Yes.
Perfect. That was a fast upgrade. So how was your experience during the last bug, which was this emergency upgrade, right, to version 0.16.3? How did you handle this upgrading process for all the nodes?
Yeah, so we don't push updates to nodes, so it's an opt-in process for the users. We have, and same with communication for all of our users, they can opt into our newsletter to essentially receive either our regular announcements or, in the case of this kind of thing, an emergency kind of announcement that, hey, there's a serious bug and you should upgrade. And so about a week after the patch was released, we sent out this message to everybody who's on our mailing list saying, if you're running a full node right now, you need to update because you could be vulnerable to these DOS or inflation bug attacks. And other than that, it's kind of out of our hands because this is about self-sovereignty and autonomy, and so we don't force updates on users, but we do strongly suggest that in cases like this, you probably want to upgrade.
And the hardware of the Bitseed box, is it a Raspberry Pi? Does it have a hard drive? What kind of box is it?
Yeah, so we used to ship it with a single board computer called a PC Duino Nano 3, which is very similar to a Raspberry Pi, but it has a native SATA connection so you can connect it directly to a hard drive. Now we've since upgraded to a mini PC board, which has twice as much RAM, and so can support a lot more additional software. For example, in the future we might have an Electrum personal server, a block explorer, a lightning node. There are a bunch of possibilities. Block stack. There's a bunch of really cool software that people are building around Bitcoin that can offer additional services to full node users, so that people can get the most value out of their full nodes possible.
So I personally am running 2 Bitcoin full nodes. One is on a Raspberry Pi 3, the other one is on my phone. And so with the Raspberry Pi 3, it takes a long time for the initial sync and the initial verification. So how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, so I do want to emphasize that we used to ship it with a single board computer, similar in power and specs and stuff to a Raspberry Pi. Now it's a mini PC. It can actually sync from scratch within a reasonable amount of time because it's got 4 gigs of RAM.
How much is
syncing from scratch, it would probably take about a week. It's like a low-end laptop or a desktop computer. So I know if you have a super high-end desktop computer, you can sync I think within like 48 hours or something, depending on how fast your internet connection is. But really the bottleneck these days is just CPU speeds. And so before, when we had the single board computer, we would actually preload the blockchain onto the devices, ship it. That is a point of trust in a way, but we always say this is open source software. You always have the option of syncing from scratch, wiping it clean if you want, and starting over. Just as a matter of convenience, if you trust us to load an accurate version of the blockchain, then you can get that initial sync, and once you receive it, you just basically sync the blocks since we packaged up the node and shipped it. So that most of our customers probably just did it that way, but because it's all open source software, it's running on Linux. People always have the freedom to do it themselves, and we encourage them to do that if they want to.
And you mentioned that you're working on adding a Lightning node. What's the progress on that? I know a lot of people want to get not just a Bitcoin node, but a Bitcoin and a Lightning node to support the new network. They could plug and play it. There's a lot of interest in that right now. How is that going?
Yeah, there is a lot of interest, and we've done a couple of polls on this over the past few months since LND was officially declared kind of ready for mainnet, basically it's still like extremely early days. I personally, and I would say we as a team, don't really feel comfortable shipping it with Lightning today. There's a lot to figure out still in terms of user experience and security and recovering from various kinds of failures, because there's a lot of critical data that Lightning nodes need to manage to keep states, the channels up to date. And so it's probably going to be at least a year or two, possibly, depending, just for the user experience to kind of level out. And for us to have good answers to these security questions. There was a really great talk on the first day here about hardware wallets and Lightning nodes. I would feel a lot more comfortable shipping Lightning with Bitseed if we had a really great dedicated hardware device that could manage all those secrets and important information that Lightning needs to be secure.
And I'd say we had a similar conversation on Twitter recently with General Bytes. And I know everyone's in a big hurry to get these updates, and we all want the new software and these things, but safety and security is more important, and testing takes time. And General Bytes basically said they want to upgrade their ATMs to SegWit, Bech32, all of these new things, but they don't want to lose their customers' money. The same thing here. You don't want to crash their nodes. You don't want to have unintended consequences. People trust these things. They put their money in them. We have to go slow, and we have to be safe and test them, and that's part of building good software. We often talk about Bitcoin, that it's flying around the world nonstop, it's refueling mid-air, and that we never land the airplane. So if we add anything new to that airplane, we could screw up the balance, we could make it crash, that would be a big disaster, not just for Bitcoin, but for people that trust Bitcoin, that put their money in it. So I do applaud the slow and steady way, but I do know there's people out there and they want the new stuff. So we have to blend those two.
Exactly. And we've talked to Michael here on the show yesterday, and he's shown us his little computer with the was not a Raspberry Pi, was another chipset.
It was a small computer.
Yeah, small computer.
Nodal. Yeah.
The Nodal, exactly. And there was the Bitcoin full node and already a Lightning node. So there are ways of doing this, and this is, of course, early research and development. But do you already have a team working on that, or yourself?
I played around with Lightning on the command line, and I mean, it's great software. It does what it does what's on the box. It's just in terms of creating a plug and play experience for the demographic that Bitseed is built for. Where people feel like everything is kind of managed and taken care for them, at least in a way where the UX is something that, frankly, that I could use. I mean, the command line stuff. I just since starting Bitseed, I've just forced myself to learn Linux command line so that I can experiment with the cutting edge stuff. But for your average person that's using like mobile apps and stuff, they want a nice GUI. Right. They want to feel like everything is just integrated and works really well. And I don't think Lightning's quite there yet. And again, just that the secret management and stuff is really important too. We've always kind of discouraged people from using hot wallets, and right now every Lightning node, to the best of my knowledge, is running on a hot wallet. And so it's changing the way that people are used to using Bitcoin, and it's just going to take time to build new good habits around this.
And now you also mentioned that you're working on another project, Aragon. What is that project about?
Yeah, so Aragon is building an app that makes it easy to create new decentralized organizations.
Okay.
That run on the blockchain.
Okay.
So people can, right now most people are used to using Bitcoin in an individual sense, where they are, controlling their own money. Sure. and kind of sovereign for themselves. But with DAOs, we now have the ability to create organizations that are sovereign and running on the blockchain as well. And with advanced scripting languages, such as the ones that Ethereum offers with Solidity, you can code very kind of complex rule sets about how the resources of an organization can be managed. And Aragon has basically done all of the hard work to create a secure infrastructure for that. And then we have an app with just friendly buttons and options that people can choose for selecting the parameters of their organization so that they can create their ideal decentralized organization.
So is this mainly for managing the finances, or is this for managing, say, like the structure of the company, or what kind of benefits would I get from putting my organization on Aragon?
I think Aragon is perhaps most useful for blockchain native organizations, okay, or at least digital native organizations, because there are still certainly a lot of challenges with entities that want to interact with the real world and like real property and stuff. So you can use Aragon to manage any kind of assets that are on the blockchain, okay, such as domain names or currencies, or potentially in the future securities, okay, and non-fungible tokens like CryptoKitties and stuff. Any kind of assets that the organization collectively owns, okay, that are stored on chain, and then Aragon empowers the users to set custom governance rules over how those assets can be managed. And you can set it up in such a way that you have like different departments that might have different levels of access to those resources. So maybe the board of directors has the power to move all of the money, but maybe the finance department only has the power to move like 1% per day or something like that. So it gets very granular in terms of the permissions that you can set within your organization.
Yes. And marketing can give out all the CryptoKitties.
Exactly. You give them the CryptoKitty vault.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good, Max.
And so the funny thing is that I tested out Aragon probably like a year and a half ago, And I didn't even know that you were involved until you just said that, so that was quite nice meeting you. And already back then I realized that this is actually quite a useful service, because it gives, as you said, all these complex infrastructure that is not easy, right? It pushes that to the background, and it gives you on the user interface quite a simple way of managing this. And so multi-sigs are of course one part of this, but the problem of multi-sigs is that you have to recurrently, recycle keys and everything. And open source software like Thomas promotes it a lot, mistos.io is quite a nice way of doing that handily. So how do you handle the key management in this Aragon setup?
Mistos is great software. It's Bitcoin native, so a lot of the ways that they have built their software is structured around the way that you manage Bitcoin keys. Aragon specifically is built on Ethereum, and so there's a bit more flexibility in how you can manage membership of your organization. And so removing a member of an organization is just as easy as clicking a button. And depending on the rules again that you have set for the organization, that might require a vote of some sort to basically get the consent of all of the other members of the organization to remove that person. Or your organization might be coded in such a way that there's an executive or a human resources person of some sort that has the power to just remove someone from the organization, and it's just you broadcast the transaction, it gets mined in a block, and the person's no longer in the organization. So the key management is kind of pushed, in terms of key management, that's like on the users to manage their keys, hopefully in a some sort of hardware wallet or other secure setup. But in terms of like on-chain management of accounts, it's very easy. It's just an update to the contract essentially.
And what kind of companies would use Aragon? Is it like for a company that meets all in one room, or is it a company, somebody's in Russia and in Germany and New York City? Is it more for distributed or more for locals?
It could be either, because both distributed companies as well as companies that work in the same physical location might have lots of, or just any kind amount of on-chain resources that they need to collectively manage.
Right. So if you had to run smart contracts, you need to store a bunch of ether, the programmers need access to it, you could give them access, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that kind of thing. One use case that I find really compelling is actually managing the upgradability of smart contracts in a way that is more decentralized than it's been traditionally managed. So in the Ethereum world, there's this concept of like an only owner contract, where basically you have one account, usually the programmer of the contract, that has the power to upgrade the contract if there's a bug. Of course, back before upgradable contracts became a thing, you couldn't even upgrade the contract, and you would end up with situations like the DAO, where there's a problem and you can't do anything about it except to hard fork the blockchain. Now we've gotten better. Contracts can be upgraded, but there's a governance question that comes into play, which is who has the power to upgrade the contract. Again, traditionally the way that people would do this is to have this only owner setting, where the programmer of the contract had the power to push an update if they need to make a change of any kind or fix a bug. And now with Aragon, what you can do is you can add a better governance layer on top of upgradability, where you can say, actually you need to have 3 out of 5 people approve an upgrade, or you can say all of the users of this contract have to vote to approve an upgrade, or something like that. So that's one way that people are using Aragon, is to actually add governance to the upgradability of smart contracts on Ethereum.
And now, of course, Aragon is a right now Ethereum project, and we like Bitcoin, right? So what is missing in Bitcoin, and maybe how can we improve, or how can we adapt Bitcoin so that something like Aragon would be possible on Bitcoin?
That's a great question, and I don't know that we would need to have, say, main chain Bitcoin support, for example, Turing-complete smart contracts, where you can have these incredibly expressive, flexible ways of writing contracts with very granular details about how, in this application, you could run an organization. perhaps something like Taproot or scriptless scripts or any of the new kind of very expressive ways of writing smart contracts. There's like Simplicity. There's a few other like new, more advanced smart contracting languages that people are talking about implementing on Bitcoin. Maybe something like that could be used to create at least more advanced organizations than are just possible with multi-sig today. But you know, even if you couldn't build an organization as expressive as an Aragon organization on the Bitcoin main chain, even with all of those changes, you could still perhaps do something like this with a sidechain like Rootstock, for example, or maybe a meta layer that's built on top of Bitcoin that is actually Turing complete if you want to go that far. So it's possible to do decentralized organizations as we can do with Aragon in Bitcoin. I'm just not sure that it would ever make sense or be possible even to do it on the main chain, and that might not be a problem either. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm about out of questions. Where can people learn more about Aragon and Bitseed? Yeah, these all sound good.
So our website for Bitseed is bitseed.org, and we have a Twitter account, bitseed.org. And for Aragon, it's aragon.org, and on Twitter, Aragon Project.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, John, and it's great to see you outside of San Francisco.
Yeah,
be sure to check out Prague. The old city is beautiful, and we've had amazing weather these last couple of days, so it's been really nice to be here.
Yeah, it's been great. Do you recommend any specific
well, I
sites
recommend
to see here?
Ubering directly to Prague Castle 1 or something. It drops you off at this bus station near the old church, and then you get to walk down the stairs rather than walking up the stairs. And from there, it's just a great tour, seeing kind of the old town hall. They have the astrological clock, is amazing. They restored it recently. And then the St. Charles Bridge with all the statues on it is really good. What I'd look for today is one of the statues has been sandblasted and looks brown and perhaps original. The others still have their black, sooty, 100 years of dirt on them. They're doing a great job restoring and cleaning up the place. But I think it's going to look totally different, and I don't know if it should look old and black and sooty or new and brown and pretty. So
and that's the thing, right? When being dropped off by a car on the top of the mountain, you kind of cheat gravity.
That's right.
That's
it's a
nice.
big trick there, and Ubers are very cheap here. It's great to have Uber here, much better than Riga with the taxi drivers ripping us off every time we went somewhere. So
Nice pro tip. I appreciate that.
that's right. Thanks so much, John.
Thanks for
Pleasure to
having
see
me
you.
on.
It's a pleasure to know.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, John.
Bye, folks.